This is me Arzu here and I welcome you to my channel Mr. Teeth, where your dental concept get dissected. So this is our first video on the impression material and we are going to start a new chapter, that is impression material, from this video. Okay, so as in the previous videos, okay, so I have discussed about the dental cements in this dental material playlist. Okay, so from today I will start this new chapter, that is impression material. In this chapter we will be discussing with the different substances, okay, different materials that are used in dentistry, that are used for impression making. Okay, we will be talking with the impression compound, agar, alginate, okay, in upcoming videos. But for today, in this part 1 video, as it is an introductory video to this impression material, so in this video we will be just looking what is impression, what is dental impression, and what are the important properties. Okay, so what are the desirable properties that are required for any substance to be a impression material. Similarly, we will be discussing with the classification of the impression material on the three bases. One is on the mode of setting and the elasticity. Similarly, this is properly of setting and elasticity, and another is a tissue displacement during the impression procedure and according to the elasticity. Okay, so our first point is here, that is impression. Okay, so impression, simply impression means the negative replica. Okay, so anything that have its negative replica means its duplicate. Okay, so negative replica of anything. Okay, so it is a impression, and dental impression is the negative replica of the tissue of the mouth. Okay, so dental impression means the negative replica of anything, okay, that is related to the dental. Okay, dental related things like teeth. Okay, similarly the associated structures of the teeth like gums and the cheeks. Okay, so that comes under this dental impression. So after taking the impression, what we do is, okay, so when we take the impression, we just pour the gypsum product in that impression, and after pouring this gypsum product we will get the positive cast. Okay, so I think you guys know about this cast. Okay, so about the cast and the impression that we have made here. Okay, so that is called mold. Okay, so in mold we used to pour the gypsum product, and after pouring of this gypsum product there is a formation of the positive cast. Okay, so I think you have been familiar with this cast and the mold. Okay, and next topic is important properties of the impression material. Okay, so it is desirable properties. Any substance must have to be a impression material. So our first point, okay, so I have taken this from the Phillips Science of Dental Material. So in our first point, as I have written here, sufficient fluidity to adapt the oral tissue. Okay, so anything that is taking an impression, okay, anything that is a impression taking material, then it should be freely flowing. Okay, so if it can't flow properly, it couldn't take the proper impression. So it should have sufficient fluidity to adapt the oral tissue. Similarly, in the next point, as I have written, it also must be viscous enough to be held in a tray. Okay, so it should be flowable too and also should be viscous too. Okay, so it should be in middle between the viscosity and the flowability. Okay, so in the fluidity, so you should remember this. Okay, so sufficient fluidity and viscous enough to be held in the tray. After that, I have written here, it is able to transform or set into the rubbery or the solid in the mouth reasonable time. Okay, so in the mouth, okay, so in the mouth temperature the substance should be set. Okay, so it should be transformed into the rubbery or the solid form in the mouth in the reasonable time. Similarly, our another point I have written here, resistant to the distortion or the tearing when removed from the mouth. Okay, so when we remove just from the mouth, there should be resistant to the distortion or the tearing. After that, I have written here about the dimensional stability. Okay, so it should be dimensional stable. Okay, so it should have a high strength. Similarly, it should be biocompatible, it should be cost effective and compatible with the handling, and also it should be compatible with the gypsum product. Okay, as after taking the impression we used to pour the gypsum product in the impression. Okay, so it should be compatible with the gypsum product, and after that, as I have written here, it should be stable under the humid environment and increasing temperature. Okay, so it should be compatible with the gypsum product, also should be compatible with the environment. Okay, lab temperature, lab humidity. Okay, so I have written here almost 9 points, and there are also other point too. Okay, it shouldn't be toxic, it should be biocompatible, as I have written here. Okay, so just you should remember all those points. Okay, so sometimes they can ask in theory exams. Okay, so write the ideal properties of an impression material, so at that time you can write all those points. Okay, and I want to assure that, okay, so the things that I will be discussing in my all the videos, okay, in my upcoming videos and also in this video, will be enough in this impression material. Okay, so you should trust me and follow my instruction, follow these notes, study these notes properly, remember it. Okay, you just watch the video, and after watching the video just read the notes. Okay, and again if you have a confusion in any point, okay, so you can comment down in the below this video. Okay, so I will reply there, but I think I am discussing all those points, okay, in this video itself, so it will be very easy to understand everything. So our next topic is the classification of the impression material, and which is the most important topic of this impression subtopic of this impression material. Okay, so as I have told previously, we have classified this impression material in many bases. Okay, so we have 3 bases, so let's discuss that. So our first basis is according to the mode of setting and the elasticity. Okay, so on the basis of mode and setting and the elasticity, okay, basically it is based on the mode of setting. Okay, so there are 2 types of impression material. One impression material sets by the chemical reaction, and another sets by the temperature change. Okay, so anything, okay, so just think like that. Okay, so any substance, okay, that sets by the chemical reaction is irreversible. Okay, and it is a thermoset, also called thermoset. And any substance that sets by the, okay, so the setting is by the temperature change, so just simply change in the temperature would cause the setting of that substance, then it is reversible. Okay, because after changing the temperature, okay, if we will change the temperature and we will make the temperature that was previously, then the substance would come in the previous state. So this is reversible and it is thermoplastic. So just you remember, there are 2 types of impression material. One is set by chemical reaction, and another is set by the temperature change. Okay, so just follow my verbals. Okay, so just follow my words and you will be remembering all those points. Okay, so just listen properly. The thing I am telling here is that the mode of setting. Okay, so according to the mode of setting, there are 2 types of impression material. One is setting by the chemical reaction, and another is setting by the temperature change or physical change. Okay, so temperature change comes under the physical change, and the substance that are setting by the chemical reaction are the irreversible. Okay, so once the chemical reaction happen, it is irreversible, it can't be changed in the previous state. But in the temperature change, after the changing the temperature, after increasing temperature or decreasing temperature, okay, so there is a formation of the set structure. But when you will take that temperature to the previous temperature, it will be again coming to the previous state. So that is the difference between those substances. So in this chemical reaction, in the irreversible type of this impression material, we have impression plaster and zinc oxide usinol. Okay, so I will be talking with those substances in my upcoming videos. For now, you just remember impression plaster and zinc oxide usinol. Okay, so impression plaster, when you will just set this, or when you will try to set this, okay, so after setting it won't come back. Okay, so you can remember this by the gypsum product. Okay, so when you mix the plaster, okay, the dental plaster by adding the water and the dental plaster, okay, so when you do the manipulation, so after manipulation, okay, there is a formation of the set mask. Okay, so that set mask is not being changed into the previous powder form. Okay, so you can remember like that way. So it is an impression plaster here and zinc oxide usinol. I think you have used this in your lab. Okay, so this zinc oxide usinol is used for taking the final impression. Okay, and we have we have two pastes. Okay, one is a base and another is a catalyst. Okay, so you used to mix those paste, and there the uniform color is obtained. Okay, so one is green color, sorry, one is brown and another is a white color. Okay, I am not remembering properly here, but you just think there is 2 type of paste present in zinc oxide usinol. One is base and another is a catalyst, and after mixing there is a formation of the proper uniform color. Okay, and that is used for taking the final impression. And after that, okay, and other substances that comes under this chemical reaction is the alginate, polysulfide, polyether and silicon. So this alginate is the reversible hydrocolloid. Okay, so sorry, it is a irreversible hydrocolloid. Okay, so it is coming under the hydrocolloid. In upcoming classification I will show you that, but for now just remember this much: the substances impression material that comes under the chemical reaction section is the impression plaster, zinc oxide usinal, alginate and other elastomeric impression material. Okay, so elastomeric impression material, so they are polysulfide, polyether, silicon, and the temperature change is the impression compound. Okay, so this is most famous substance that is used in the impression making, and another is the impression wax. Okay, and another is the agar hydrocolloid. So just remember this much for now. And another table also. Okay, in this table itself there is written that for the rigid or the and something, and some are elastic and some are rigid. Okay, on this chemical reaction section 2. Okay, so the impression plaster and zinc oxide usinal are the rigid. Okay, and elastic are the alginate. So I think you have remembered that. Okay, when you have taken the impression from the alginate, okay, so during taking impression from this alginate, it is quite elastic. Okay, you can just bend little, okay, to that alginate impression, but this impression plaster and zinc oxide usinal are quite stiff. Okay, when you can't bend it, so it is sort of rigid impression material, and these are elastic impression material. And impression compound and impression waxes are also rigid. Okay, so the rigid impression material are used for the edentulous. Okay, because in edentulous there is no more undercuts. Okay, and in the undercuts we can't use this impression compound and the waxes or the impression plaster. Okay, so in the undercuts we can't use that, but this elastic impression material we can use in the undercut, so they are used in a dentulous. Okay, so rigids are used in the edentulous arch and elastic are used in the dentulous arch. Okay, so once again I will just verbally tell it, so just think this much, and this is one of the most important classification. Okay, they will ask you in the viva and also in the theory exam, so you should prepare well this. So you should prepare this well. Okay, so according to the mode of setting, okay, and also this elasticity. So according to the mode of setting, one is chemical, another is physical. So in chemical we have impression plaster, zinc oxide usinal, alginate and elastomeric impression material, and in the temperature change or in the physical change we have impression compound, impression waxes and agar hydrocolloid. In also that, okay, we have impression plaster and zinc oxide usinal. Okay, just remember your practical work. Okay, so after remembering that substance you can easily tell that it is rigid or elastic. Okay, you can just separate that, you can distinguish that easily. Okay, so just remember that and just think the image. Okay, so impression plaster, zinc oxide usinal are the rigid, impression compound and the waxes are also rigid, but alginate, agar and elastomeric substances are elastic, and rigid are used in edentulous arc and elastic are used in a dentulous arch. Okay, so I think I am able to explain you this properly and you guys have remembered it properly too. Okay, now I will move to the next classification, and in the next classification it is according to the tissue displacement. So in the tissue displacement we have one mucostatic and one is mucocompressive. Okay, so in the prosto you will be studying this about mucostatic theory, okay, mucocompressive theory. So they are the theories that are related to the impression taking. Okay, when you take the impression, so there are many theories. So one theory is mucostatic theory of taking impression and another is a mucocompressive theory of taking impression. So in the mucostatic material, okay, so the substances that are used and that follows the mucocompressive theory or mucostatic theory comes under those section. Okay, so in the mucostatic material we have impression plaster, zinc oxide usinal paste and low viscosity alginate. Okay, so it is just similar with that of the chemical reaction here, and it produces the minimal displacement of the tissue during the impression. Okay, so mucostatic means, okay, so we take the impression but without using lot pressure. Okay, and when we will discuss when I will be discussing in the prosto, okay, I will be discussing with this mucostatic and mucocompressive properly there, but for now just remember this much: in mucostatic what we do is we just load the impression material on the tray and take the impression but without applying more pressure. Okay, and if you don't apply more pressure, the structure whose impression you are taking, either it is gums, either it is a tooth, okay, alveolar ridge, okay, so that would be that so that person would have would at that portion there will be less pressure applied. Okay, so this mucostatic material means there is less pressure applied on the impression taking surface, and that produce the minimal displacement of the tissue, and it would give the proper impression. Okay, so the substances that are used in this mucostatic material is a impression plaster, another is a zinc oxide paste, and another is a low viscosity alginate. Okay, and our another material is mucocompressive. So it is simple. In mucocompressive, what we do is we just apply the proper force. Okay, so the proper pressure, proper force is applied on it. Okay, so it is more viscous and it displaces tissue while recording them. Okay, so some drawbacks are present in this mucocompressive theory. Okay, as it displaces the tissue, so the proper impression can't be taken. Okay, so that is one of the drawback of this theory. And another point, as I have written here, impression compound, okay, comes under this mucocompressive and high viscosity alginate. So when we take the impression from the impressive compound, we used to apply the pressure. Okay, we used to apply the force on the impression surface. Okay, after completing this classification, we have another classification, and it is properly based on the elastic and non-elastic. Okay, so as I have discussed previously too. Okay, so in previous table also there I have mentioned about the rigidity and the elastic. Okay, so similar here. So as I have mentioned here, okay, so this is the non-elastic. Okay, but the thing that I wanted to enforce you here is that this aqueous hydrocolloid and non-aqueous elastomers. Okay, so they are very important, and they are just, I have written here, impression material, one is non-elastic and one is elastic, that I have discussed previously. And okay, so non-elastic, they are impression plaster, impression compound, impression waxes, zinc oxide usinal. Okay, and previously as I have told, non-elastic is used in edentulous arc and elastic is used in a dentulous and also edentulous. Okay, so mainly it is used in a dentulous. Okay, but it is also used in a edentulous. We can use in the edentulous. Okay, so it is used in a dentulous arc. Okay, and non-elastic is used in a edentulous arc, but there is no any sort of rule. Okay, that we can only use this elastic material on the dentulous. Okay, we can also use it in a edentulous. Okay, and it is being used. Okay, as we use alginate. Okay, so alginate are also used in this edentulous arc. Okay, as alginate is one of the famous impression taking material nowadays. So it is widely used in a dentulous, but also we can use it in a edentulous. Okay, and this non-elastic is always used in a edentulous. Okay, and in non-elastic we have impression plaster, so I have discussed with this, and in elastic we have aqueous hydrocolloid and non-aqueous elastomers. Okay, so this aqueous hydrocolloids, okay, so they are agar and alginate. Okay, and I will be discussing with this hydrocolloid, what is this hydrocolloid, okay, and what is this agar, what is alginate, okay, in my upcoming videos. But for now, just you remember, one is aqueous hydrocolloid and that have agar, and another is alginate. And agar is a reversible, means you can reverse it. Okay, it comes under the physical change. Okay, so after changing the temperature there is set of the substance, so that is reversible, that is agar, and irreversible is alginate. Similarly, the non-aqueous elastomer we have polysulfide, silicones, polyether, so they are all elastomeric impression material. Okay, and they are also elastic, and in silicones we have condensation silicones and adhesion silicones. So I will be discussing with those impression material in my upcoming videos, but for now just remember they are the elastomeric impression material that comes under the non-aqueous elastomers, and the elastic, they are of elastic nature. Okay, so I have completed all the topics that are to be discussed in today's video. So I will be discussing with all those substances in my upcoming video. So you guys should be trusting me, should be assuring me, and should follow all those notes. Okay, and study all those notes, because this video is the base or the foundation of my upcoming videos. Okay, so if you will not watch this video, then you won't be clear in my upcoming videos. So I will be discussing with all those substances in my upcoming videos properly. So for today, if you love this video, please do like, subscribe and share with your batchmate, and tata, bye bye, thank you.